You may all be seated.
He fought for us every day for the 8 years he was in office. Don't let anybody tell you different. Don't let anybody tell you that when he combined all the services in social service to better serve the people by having no wrong doors so that you can come in and get all the service you need in one place, that wasn't important. Don't let him tell you that, you know, he left with some mess. He balanced budgets every single year with verified, audited surpluses. That's a successful administration, and that's different than what we got. And I'm going to tell you, don't let him tell you. Don't let him tell you that he left debt. He left less debt in 8 years than Ed Magnano's done in 3.5 years. And that's something you want to remind everybody. But more importantly, just take a look. Just take a look. Look into your neighborhoods. Look at the people. Look at the fact that you had somebody for 8 years who actually cared, who actually tried, who actually fought for people each and every day. That's what we need back, and that's why we need Tom Suozzi back in Mineola right 2 years ago. So my friends, we have a choice, you have a choice. You're either going to sit back, be the spectators, let's see what happens. Let's see if it works out. Or you're going to take hold of our destiny, take hold of your future, our future, and we're going to get up and we're going to work for it. And that means all of us being committed to making it happen. Because we've got to do it together this time. It isn't going to happen on our own. That's what we need you to do. So ladies and gentlemen, that's the choice each of us have to make. I hope that's what brings you here. I am looking so very much to working with you. And I'm looking forward to that day when we can say we have taken Nassau County back, and it's going to be great once again the way it ought to be, here in Hempstead and all the way through this entire county. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the day I'm looking for, and I'm glad you're here. Thank you all very much.
I'm going to use the microphone because my voice is not that loud. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And, you know, thanks for this, you know, the bid that we had for our re-election. It was a tough race. We had 6 people running for mayor. That's the first time in history of the village of Hempstead. Never had that many. But we were the ones that prevailed because the people of Hempstead have spoken. They felt that we have done a good job in the last 8 years, and they decided to bring us back. Even though the numbers may be low, but the percentage by what we beat our opponents were a larger margin than what we had before. So I want to take this opportunity to say to Jay Jacobs, thank you. I want to say also to the residents of the village of Hempstead, thank you. I want to say to the people that worked in our office 7 days a week working on those computers. I'm not sure what they were doing, but they were doing something, and you can see what the results were. I want to thank Andrina. I want to thank... Again, I want to thank Herb Williams. I want to thank my family, my wife, and all of them who allowed me to play into the political arena. I want to thank my doctor for keeping me healthy, as many of you know. Without my health, and I'm still healthy, and I always have this joke that those guys that ran against me, even though my kidney had failed me, I'm in better shape than they are. So, again, thank you. But you met my team, Louis Figueroa, Waylon Hobbs, and Aisha Brantley. Who else? Who? That's why I'm thanking all the voters, all the people from the Democratic Club, the Democratic Party. You know, what can our race is over. Okay. But we have another one coming up. And that race is for Tom Suozzi to come back. I remember I was listening to Jay when he said that, he was in this reform group. And I remember that because I was part of your group. See, people don't realize that, but we go way back, right, Tom?
Long time.
We go back from 1999, so.
He wasn't part of our group, though.
Not yet.
Actually 1993.
Okay. But, this is a great victory for us in Hempstead. I really appreciate all what you have done for me. And at this time, I want to bring up the mayor-elect of Freeport, Mr. Kennedy. And since Hempstead and since Freeport are the two largest village, but Hempstead got them beat by 10,000 people. We are number one in the state.
I'm working on that.
But we're going to work together to bring these two villages.
Yeah.
Something that we haven't done before. With the two largest. So they say in numbers you have strength. So together we're going to work. We're going to get our folks to come out to vote for Tom to get this Nassau County to be a Democratic village again. So they told me I had 5 minutes. I think I spoke over 5 minutes, but it's your floor.
Thank you, Mayor. As a trustee, I was probably 30 feet away from any mic for the past 4 years. So the other night when I was getting ready to go to bed, my beeper went off and I looked at it and it said, there was a message talking about tonight and it said, you're going to have to speak for 45 minutes. I couldn't sleep all night. I was like, 45 minutes? What am I going to talk about? I didn't have my glasses on. Really, it only said 5 minutes. But all night, I was like, I can't believe Tom threw me to the wolves. I mean, he just wants me up there because he knows he's going to look great after I get finished. I just don't know what to say. But, I'm very proud to be here. There's nobody better than Tom. We need Tom for county exec, first of all. Let's give him a big hand. I met Tom several years ago when I had opened a marina in the village of Freeport. I'd seen this marina that was 50 years old. It was dilapidated. There were gangs around there. It was unsafe. It was occupied by gangs, MS-13 all over. And I went over to Tom after he got elected, and I said, listen, I'd like to do a partnership agreement with Nassau County. It won't cost you a bit. Please, let me get involved, and I'll rebuild this marina for you. And he put me through hell. Tom literally had contracts that thick, bonds for this, bonds for that, but he did it for the people of Nassau County, and he made sure that the contract went out right. It ended up working. We had a contract between Nassau County and myself. The county probably made close to $500,000 in the first 5 years. And this is for a piece of property that was not being used, had no revenue, was unsafe to be in. So after 5 years, we had this marina fully operational. We're collecting revenue. We have tax money coming in. Tom ran this. He had a nice feather in his cap with this. And after Tom left, the sheets got pulled out, the blankets pulled out, and the marina was taken away. Right now, it's dilapidated. It's falling apart. It's going to take another $500,000 to rebuild. So I just want to say thanks to Tom for the insight that he had just to move on something like this for the residents of the people in Nassau County, and it didn't cost the county a penny. It was a great job to take something like that. I was elected as a result of teamwork. I'd like to thank, first of all, Jay Jacobs, Tom Gary, Mike Santarino, and Steve Glass for all they've done for me. It was just a tremendous effort that everybody's given me, support, assistance, and direction, and I just want to say thank you very much. But the most important thing is the ground troops. The ground troops are the ones who brought the message out to the voters. They did the coffee clutches. They did the lit drops. They did the phone conversations. They did the endorsements with their friends, relatives, and neighbors. That's what brought these people out to vote, to the polls. It was the ground troops that were out there, and that's what Tom's going to need for this election. We need everybody to please help participate, join, stand behind Tom. We need to get the same group of people together and larger to get Tom back in. Please, let's give everybody a big hand. Let's join this effort. Tom Suozzi is the only qualified person for county exec. Honesty, integrity, experience, and a proven track record. Who can beat this? We need Tom. What we really need, though, is we need volunteers. We need your help. We need you to lend a hand. We need you to come out in a team effort. Let's join this team, bring Tom in to be reelected, and we know in the village of Hempstead and the village of Freeport, we can only succeed with Tom in that position. We need him there, the residents and mayors. Please, Tom, you have to do it. Tom, anything I can do for you and anything I can bring on board, any people that I can do, you can count on it with me. We need you as county exec, and I hope everybody joins us. Thank you very much. I'd like to bring up our county legislator, Kevan Abrahams. Please come up.
Thank you. County executive. Now, I don't know about you, but I can speak for myself that I'm excited by the fact that Tom Suozzi is running for county executive. But most importantly, tonight, we're here because we know the last 4 years has not gone the way that we wanted it to go.
Say that again.
How many of you remember that in 2001, we had a similar situation here in Nassau County?
Oh, yeah.
We had a situation where the Republicans, after decades and decades and decades of mismanagement, ran our home, our county, into the ground. And it took somebody with the vision, with the ability to reform in mind, to bring our county back. Now, I don't know about you, but do you guys remember who that person was? Yeah. That person was Tom Suozzi. Tom Suozzi convinced our residents that we had a better plan for Nassau, that we could bring back Nassau if we commit ourselves. And I'll tell you right now, we need Tom Suozzi more than ever. The Republicans in Nassau County have decided to put politics before you, the people. Every time they do that, they put politics before the people. But I'm going to tell you what, Mr. Mangano and the Republicans in Nassau County, they like to pat themselves on the back, don't they? They like to send out glossy mailings talking about, thank you, Ed Mangano, for not raising my property taxes. Well, I got a couple comments on the fact they like to thank themselves. Mr. Mangano, maybe he's forgetting. And I'm going to tell him no thank you. He had promised to fix an assessment system that has cost you millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars, $1 billion over the last decade, 10 years. You know what, Mr. Mangano? Join me in saying, no, thank you to Mr. Mangano.
That's right.
Mr. Mangano made the decision to cut youth board programs right here in the village of Hempstead, and Freeport, and Roosevelt. You know what, Mr. Mangano? No, thank you, Mr. Mangano. Mr. Mangano, under his watch, decided, because of his own incapabilities, the Nassau Coliseum has been dilapidated, has fallen apart. Tom Suozzi had an idea and a solution, but was blocked by the town Republicans, as well as the county Republicans. Now the Islanders are gone and that building is falling apart. You know what, Mr. Mangano? No, thank you, Mr. Mangano.
Talk about it.
Absolutely. For the first time in our history, Nassau County is watched over by a control board. A control board that came under Mr. Mangano's watch. A control board that we were seeing bond upgrades over the last 8 years under Tom Suozzi. Now we've seen bond downgrades, which is going to cost you more money. Mr. Mangano doesn't get it. That at the end of the day, this control board is going to be with us for a long time. So when he goes to the polls, we're going to tell our friends, no, thank you, Mr. Mangano. And lastly, Mr. Mangano tried with his Republican pals to carve up our community. How many were there during the redistricting process? When you saw Hempstead, which is still cut up, and Freeport, which is cut up. And throughout our neighborhoods, we've seen our areas be cut up and slashed because of this redistricting process. And he signed the very redistricting map that has now gone into law. So now we have to live with his decisions for the next 10 years. Well, you know what? I'm prepared to tell Mr. Mangano this year, no, thank you, Mr. Mangano. But I am going to end on a positive note. Tonight, we have a chance to say thank you to a man that has the vision and the capabilities to lead this county back. Yes, it's only been 4 short years under Mr. Mangano. But 4 years, he has ruined this county and has set us back, way back before even 2001. I don't know about you, but I'm energized about November. I'm looking forward to re-electing or electing Tom Suozzi, our county executive. Are you with me? Yes! Are you prepared to go to the polls and tell me that we need Tom Suozzi? Are you prepared to go to the train station and to the bus stop and let Tom Suozzi know that we need him? Well, I don't know about you, but I know what we're prepared to do. We have the challenges in front of us. We know what we need to do. We need to elect Tom Suozzi. We need to make sure that we get Democrats in the majority. Let me bring up my good friend, our next county executive, right there, right in our town, Tom Suozzi. Let's give him a big round of applause.
Everybody's getting all excited already. We've got plenty to do. Good evening. Good evening. I am very, very humbled to be in this room with all of you. I see a lot of great faces in this room. I see people that I've known for 20 years involved in this business. And I see new faces in this room. I see so many people, I just look around and I keep on catching these faces that have been through a lot of battles together to try and make the world a better place to live in. And I'm very moved by the people in this room. So thank you, first of all, for just being here in the first place. Let me start by saying I want to congratulate Wayne Hall and Bobby Kennedy on their victories. Their victories have re-energized me about my faith in people. They had tough elections. Some things in those races were a little dirty, but the people voted for them. And they voted for them because they believe that they can make things better. How many years did Hemstead have bad press? And now, under the past couple of years, we've been reading in Newsday about Hempstead having a surplus in its budget. We read about a vision for the future of Hempstead, something that can redevelop its future and make its downtown great once again like it once was. A mayor committed to helping the people, fighting crime, and making people's lives better. Let's hear it again for Wayne Hall, and Bobby Kennedy. I know this man. He's a successful businessman. He's a heating and ventilation air conditioning contractor in the city. He's made a great success of his life in business. But he decided to take time away from his business to get involved in public service, first as a trustee, and now as the newly elected mayor of Freeport. This man will make Freeport a better place to live for the residents of the city. I'm energized by their races because of the young people that I saw involved in their races, as well as the people that have been involved for a long time. It was a new energy, a new organization, a new excitement about running these campaigns. I talked to Wayne before. I said, Wayne, there's going to be some people here tonight at the meeting that are coming out that didn't support you in the election. He says, yeah, so? I said, well, I need them to support me. I said, it was like my father. My father used to be the mayor of Glen Cove. And I used to campaign for office. And I'd be talking to a guy. He said, you know that guy in 1972, you know what he said to your uncle? I said, Dad, let me share your friends, but make my own enemies. We're all in this together.
That's right.
The races are over. Now we have to focus our attention on how to make things better for the people that live here. Let me ask you, how many of you actually live in Hempstead? Raise your hand. How many people live in Freeport? Raise your hand. How about Roosevelt? How about Uniondale? How about Lakeview? How about someplace I didn't mention? What are you guys doing here? Cynthia, I knew you were going to come. I want to thank our chairman, Jay Jacobs. This man has done great work. You may have read the newspapers that at first I wasn't planning on running for county executive. And Jay was saying, you got to run, you should run, you should run. And I started seeing more and more people were asking me to run. And all my life I was always fighting everybody. I wasn't used to having all these people ask me to run. I don't know if you remember, I ran against Tom Suozzi that time in the first race. You know, he had everybody with him. I had my mother, my wife. I did the Fix Albany thing. I was fighting with all the guys up in Albany. Yeah. I ran against Elliot Spitzer. Oh my God. That did not turn out too well for me. It didn't turn out too well for him either. But now I got all these people encouraging me to run. They're encouraging me, please, Tom, you got to run. You got to run. So I'm starting to think about it. Then they do a website. Some young Democrats did a website. Let's convince Tom Suozzi. Yes. I went home, I told my wife, and I said, honey, look at this website. Let's convince Tom Suozzi. She said, they better do a let's convince Helene Suozzi. So then, I'm reading the newspaper, and the comptroller comes out, and Mangano and Maragos come out, and they say, we have a surplus in Nassau County in 2012. The miracle. It's a miracle surplus. I said, that's not a miracle, that's BS. And I said, I kept quiet for 3 years. I mean, I didn't say anything. I was paying attention, obviously. And, you know, maybe punching the wall once in a while, but not saying anything publicly. I was working at the firms I was working at. There's a guy at one of the firms I worked at. You ever hear a man named Vernon Jordan? Okay? Vernon Jordan was at the firm that I worked at, and he told me, he says, tend your garden, focus on what's in front of you, which means do your job, don't get involved in politics. So I was paying attention, but I wasn't saying anything. But I saw this miracle surplus. I said, this is not true. I started writing an op-ed piece. I got to tell the people, this is not true. This is terrible. A day later, Newsday came out and said, this is not true. There's not a miracle surplus. It's not true. They're making it up. So I said, okay, I don't have to write the op-ed piece. And right after that, I went to Ed Koch's funeral. Now, Ed Koch was the mayor of New York City, and I was on a TV show in New York City called The Wise Guys. It was Ed Koch, Al D'Amato, and when the third guy didn't show up, they'd bring me in. And Mr. Koch, and Mayor Koch, was always so nice to me, always encouraging me, always telling me, you know, what a good guy I was, good public servant, what I should do with the future. And when I lost the race in 2009, he asked me to actually be the executive director of a foundation he had created to try and reform the redistricting process up in Albany. But I had to tend my garden, I was focusing on my job, I didn't do it, but he was always so nice to me. Well, I went to his funeral, and the eulogies, one after another, were so beautiful, talking about how he devoted his life to public service, how he always stood up for the people, how he was always honest, the sacrifices that I said, that's what I want to do with my life. That's what I've always wanted to do with my life. And it really got me inspired again. And right after that, I was taking my daughter to see a college out of state. I'm not allowed to say which college. You know, you're embarrassing me, Dad. You know. And I know that if she gets accepted to that college, she's going to go to that college. And then I'm worried about the speeches I used to make when I talked about how young people are not coming back home.
That's right.
They're not coming back to live in the place that we call home, that we love. You know, where are they going? They go to Brooklyn. They're going to Manhattan. Not because it's affordable even, but because that's the lifestyle that they're looking for. And young people, they go to college, they go away, they're not coming back home. There's no apartment for them to rent. There's no downtown for them to meet other young people, to hang around together. And that became real. These speeches I was giving in the old days were now real in my own life. And I was like, I have got to do something about this. We've got to fix this problem here. This growing problem that's getting worse and worse and worse, and nobody seems to have a vision for the future. So I was pretty close to doing it. And then a friend of mine, I was talking to a guy I went to college with, and he said, well, if it was 2001, if you were the guy you were in 2001, would you be running? I said, oh, I'd be running. I'd, throw caution to the wind. I'm going to go. I'm going to go. He said, well, let me tell you. One of my favorite movies is Rocky III. So now in Rocky III, what happened? Rocky has got to fight Clubber Lang, you know, Mr. T. And his coach has died. I suppose his coach is Mickey. Mickey. Coach Mickey had died. So Apollo Creed is training Rocky now. So they're doing all these different things together, and Apollo's trying to teach him to fight a different way, and he's racing with him on the beach. Do you remember this scene? They're running along the beach together? Wait, has everybody seen this movie or not? Rocky and Apollo Creed, so they're running along the beach, right? They're running along the beach together, and Rocky's slowing down, he's like giving up, and Apollo says, come on, man, come on, man. He says, oh, we'll do it tomorrow, we'll do it tomorrow. And Apollo turns around in the water, he says, there is no tomorrow! You've got to do it now! And that's what we've got to do now. We've got to think about tomorrow and what we need to do for tomorrow. And we can't wait any longer. We've got to go after this and try and turn this place around. I lost the race in 2009 because I didn't work hard enough. This woman just said to me, I'll be with you, but you better work harder this time. I don't know if you remember, in 2001 I worked like you wouldn't believe. 2005, same thing, worked, but 2009 I didn't work hard enough. And Mangano came in and he made a mess of things. And the state took over the county. You know, we had a control board in place. Let me remind you of the history. He said, Suozzi left me a mess. Well, let me tell you the real story. In 1999, remember Bill Clinton was the president of the United States of America? The economy in America was booming. Almost full employment, they said. The highest home ownership in the history of America. Everything was in great surplus in the federal government. Can you imagine? A surplus in the federal government. But in Nassau County, we were on the brink of disaster. Our bond rating was one step above junk bond status. We were on the brink of bankruptcy, and they put a control board in place to monitor the finances of Nassau County. 2001, first of all, Kevan pointed this stuff out well. Kevan, that was a great speech. So give Kevan a round of applause. No, thank you. So, 2001, I get elected. I come into office January of 2002, right after September 11th of 2001. So now, Nassau County's on the brink of bankruptcy, bond rating one step above junk bond status. Now the economy's getting worse. We got big problems. But we turned the place around. We made tough decisions. I had raised taxes my first year in office. I didn't raise them again for 6 years in a row after that. We reduced the workforce by 1,000 people, not by laying off low-wage people, laying off people, but through normal attrition and reforming the different departments, department by department by department, doing creative things like public-private partnerships with the marina and dozens of other things like that. We reduced the borrowing in the county. We did all these things. We stabilized Nassau County. And what happened? September 15th of 2008, Lehman Brothers, the Wall Street Bank, goes bust. They go out of business. The whole world economy tanks. The sales taxes in Nassau County down into the basement. Everything fell apart. Unemployment going through the roof. People in a rotten mood. Things just a wreck. Foreclosures all over the place. We managed, despite this horrible circumstance, to keep the county stable. In fact, when the outside groups audited the county statements, they said Nassau County is stable. There's 3 groups called Moody's, Fitch, and Standard & Poor's. They looked at our finances in December of 2009. After I had lost the race, they looked at the finances. They said Nassau County is stable. Mangano says, I inherited a mess. The whole world was in a mess. The whole world had financial... Remember Suffolk County? Everybody thought Suffolk County, they're in such great financial shape. Steve Levy's doing such a great job. Now this new guy's in there. The place is a wreck. Everybody's got financial problems all over America because of the world economy. It's not enough to say, that guy's a bum, that one's no good, he left me with a problem. You have to actually fix the problem. You have to make decisions. You have to implement plans to change things. You can't just say, it's a problem. You can't just put on your little fleece jacket with a little county seal on it and say, I'm trying real hard. That's not enough. You have to actually fix the problems that exist. And this administration has not done that. That's why the state took over. That's why their bond ratings have been downgraded twice. That's why they make these big proposals. They say, we're going to cut the wages by $60 million. but then they don't do it. They say, we're going to close the police precincts. And that was a bad idea, and then they don't implement it. They make broad pronouncements about how they're going to solve all the problems, but then they don't do it. We have hundreds of millions of dollars that we owe, over $500 million related to lawsuits that we lost. Anybody can propose an idea that's either stupid or illegal, but sounds good. Anybody can do that. You have to actually propose something that makes sense and actually fix the problem. They haven't done that. This race cannot just be about this one's no good, that one's no good. It's got to be about what's the vision for the future.
Yes.
The future of Nassau County. It all started with Levittown in 1947. Probably a sore topic when suburbia really first started. And we went through this explosive growth in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. Now, we're 66 years old. And the infrastructure is a little bit worn. And we've got more expenses than we did in the old days. And you know, worst of all, we're not growing anymore. And if you don't grow, you don't bring any new money into the coffers to pay for things. So all we see happening is no new revenues coming in. Sales tax aren't growing fast like they used to in the old days. Property tax base is not expanding like when they were building new construction, new houses, new strip malls, new restaurants. When they were building something that was expanding the tax base in the 60s and 70s and 80s, that's not happening. So all they're doing is cutting things. But if they cut certain things the wrong way or irresponsibly, it ruins the quality of life. If you ruin the quality of life, not only will your kids not come back, more people will move away. Who wants to move to a community that has declining quality of life? Who wants to move to a community where they see bad things in the newspaper every day? We have to have a vision to rebuild parts of our county. Keep 99% of it exactly the way it is now. Where your houses are, keep your neighborhoods the same. Single-family homes, safe places. But let's think about our downtown areas and how we can make them into cool downtowns where young people are going to want to live. Where you can see your neighbors. You can go out to the restaurant and see your neighbor when you're in the downtown area. When you go to church, you'll see other people walking up and down the street because they're down in the downtown area shopping that day too. We've got to try and create a vision for this place that'll take us for the future. It's not enough to say, I miss the old days. It's not good enough, I miss the old days. It's not going to work. We can't just hang on for dear life to yesterday anymore. We have to say, it can be better tomorrow. We can be the model suburban community of the nation. We have a very long campaign ahead of us. I'm not going to give any more speech tonight. I just wanted to start this campaign off by coming to visit you, to let you know that I'm going to work as hard as I can, that I need you on my team. You know, we had a meeting like this up in Glen Cove in North Oyster Bay, which is my base where I was the mayor of Glen Cove. 230 people showed up. We had a second meeting down in Valley Stream for southwest Nassau County. 215 people showed up. We have this third meeting here tonight in Hempstead. I'd say there's at least 200 people in this room. We should count how many people are actually in the room here tonight. We're going to have a fourth meeting down in southeast Nassau County, down in Seaford, and a fifth one up in North Hempstead somewhere. And then we're going to all come together and really have a big group together. But we need to work together. We need to forget about yesterday's stuff and think about tomorrow and how together we can make this a better place to live. You know why? It takes teamwork to make the dream work.